Hey, how's everybody doing today? And welcome to this episode of Coffee Talk with Brohawk. I have been waiting to have this particular episode for a few weeks now, and I am very happy and honored to have my old friend, not in age wise, but my longtime friend Colleen Zimmerman join me on today's episode. Colleen, thank you very much for being a part of this episode where we're actually going to feature you. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to?
Well, thank you for having me, Mark. I'm just delighted to be here. And we have known each other for a very long time when we were
Yes.
young and
Yeah.
starting out in our careers. So we have some more stories we could tell. But
Yes.
we grew up a lot together during that time. So I'm really happy to be here. So, again, my name is Colleen Zimmerman. I am originally from Kansas, currently living outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan. I just left the University of Michigan after 17 years, where I was one of 19 chief development officers at the university, which means that I was one of the chief fundraisers for the University of Michigan. Um, so I've been a fundraiser for a very long time, for about 25 years. Prior to being at Michigan, I was at the University of Kansas, which is our alma mater,
Yes.
and raised money there, which is actually how I got to Michigan. Ultimately, was recruited to Michigan. But my career, I've done a couple different careers actually during, since graduated from college, and one was working in the student loan industry, which is where you and I met, and we worked there for a very long time.
Yes, we did.
Uh, I worked in customer relations. I worked in mostly in finance, and then some operations in claim processing,
Yes.
and managing that department. And then I went into economic development for the state of Kansas and worked for the Department of Commerce, which that's how led me to fundraising for the University of Kansas. So what I'm doing now is I've stayed in the fundraising and executive leadership training and coaching circle, just trying to help people do their best. And so I do a lot of different things, really, and I'm being asked to do a lot of different things. So I'm trying some new things and keeping the things I love to do and passing off the things that I don't really like to do, or I'm finding out it's not my best work to someone else who can do it better.
I
So
I love
that's
that.
what I'm doing now, Mark.
Oh my gosh. You are just like a Jane of all trades these days.
I really am. To be honest, I really am. I'm
Yes.
having a lot of fun. I'm also doing strategic planning. So I have my own firm, but I'm also a senior partner with a firm called Ideas for Action, which does strategic planning for mostly for higher education, institutes of higher education, but also for some corporate work and departmental work and that sort of thing too, not for profit work. So we're doing the coaching and consulting over here, strategic planning and coaching over here. And so I stay busy, but I have a lot of fun because I'm actually helping people, which is what I like to do.
That is, I love that sentiment because it's what's the saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
That's
Um,
it. That's
you
exactly
know,
right.
and I can tell by the smile on your face and just how much passion you have in what you're in talking about your career progression, that you really love what you do on a daily basis. So
I do.
that is
I've
awesome.
actually, when you think about career
Uh-huh.
trajectory and changing careers and what you want to do, I've never been one to have a plan to do something, right? I'm going to work my way up there, or
Uh-huh.
over there. I've never been that person, but I've always kept my options open when someone comes to me with an opportunity or to have a discussion about an opportunity. I've never said no until I knew it was the right opportunity or not, which has led
Yes.
me in some really great places, to be honest.
You know, I remember when we worked together. You and I didn't start off working in the same department, but I remember um, my early bosses that would say, "Hey, you want to figure out how to lead people? Go talk to Colleen." You know, And so I know that Colleen and you and your counterpart over there, I would inquire quite a bit about why are people just acting stupid, and me being young first time leader, and y'all were very patient with me, I'll put it that way.
Well, to reiterate that we were thrown into, and as you know, my husband worked with us as well. So the three of us
Yes.
actually all worked together, and he and I talk quite frequently about how we were given very advanced projects to complete and figure out and complete at a very junior level. So
Yeah.
they were the one thing, or the one component of working where we did that I'm grateful for was that someone felt that I was responsible enough to come put all this, like, here you go,
Yep.
figure it out, and get a group of people who you want to work with, right? Which was another really great thing, because
Hmm.
they said, hey, choose who you want to work with. So you and I know that core people, that core group of people that we would work with to figure things out that other people just simply could not.
Big time. Big time.
Yeah.
Li- uh, you know your husband was my first boss when I first started working there.
Bless you.
And yes,
No, no.
no, he was a riot to work for, or work,
Yeah.
it was more working with. But I mean, when
Mhm.
we first started working there, or when we were all working there, I mean, it's different. It was different working in that environment back then than working in today's environment, I think. Back then, we could just all be cranky with one another, disagree and whatnot. But as soon as the day was over, we were all having beers together and figuring it out,
That's right.
and developing those relationships. And sometimes those conversations went very long into the night,
Yeah.
and other times, we just realized, hey, cooler heads need to take over here, and we just don't do stupid things.
It's
Um,
true. Yeah,
you
it's
know,
very true. But
yeah.
you bring up a really important fact, that we learned how to work with one another to actually
Mhm.
move things forward. And that
Yes.
included many times going out and releasing the pressure that we had at inside the
Yes.
building, and took it to a patio someplace, right? Right?
Big
And then just
time.
talk those things through, which brought us all closer together as
Yes.
colleagues and ultimately friends.
And the key at the end of the day is a lot of us have stayed friends over many, many years.
Mhm.
In some way, shape, or form. And it's what led us to this conversation. So uh,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
um, so you talked about a lot of the things that some of the different roles that you've held over your career, um, and you've been very, very successful. I mean, I've been tracking you for not stalking, tracking, um, for many years through LinkedIn and whatnot. And you you've been involved in some really, really cool initiatives, cool things. Fundraising is hard work. Um, so I'm particularly interested in learning your thoughts about this. If there was something that you could go back and tell your younger self, um, that would help you in your career, what would that be? And how, if you would have listened back in the day, to yourself, how would that have changed your career trajectory?
Yeah. No, I think thank you for asking the question, because I think it's really, really important for others to hear,
Hmm.
especially younger people going into their first career and trying to
Yeah.
figure things out and figure
Yeah.
out what's right for them. The I think when I was coming up, and those in my generation, we were taught to work alone, and we
Hmm.
were taught to we learned alone,
Yeah.
we competed alone. I mean,
Hmm.
everything we did, we had to stand on our own 2 feet to move things forward. I mean, to rely on ourselves, right?
Yes.
And I think, just like we were talking about earlier, that learning, the faster you learn
Hmm.
as a young person, that working with a team will help you in more ways than one, mentally, physically, politically. I mean,
Yes.
in so many different ways. Working with a team will help you. The other thing is that you don't have to rely on yourself, that you can actually raise your hand, be vulnerable, and reach out to people who you think might be able to help you. And
Yes.
just sit down, ask to sit down. I mean, the other thing too is that I've worked with some pretty incredible people in my life at very high positions, and
Hmm.
they're always willing to sit with someone and talk with them if you have the reason and the ability,
Yes.
the I want to say gumption, but the guts to be able to reach out and say, I want to talk with you about X. And those people will sit with you. You'll sit down with someone and talk with them if they're interested.
Yes.
I will do it as well. And if it's not us that's the right person for them to talk to, we'll use our networks to be able to make those introductions so that they do talk to the right person, right?
I I love
The
that.
faster someone finds out that there are people that will help you,
Yes.
and
I
to take
think
advantage of it,
well, and think of the generation you and I grew up with. We were latchkey kids.
Mhm.
Okay. We grew up where, okay, we had to figure out how to get in the house, and if we forgot our key, forget about it. We weren't calling our parents. We were figuring out a way to get inside the house. Um,
Right,
you know,
right.
um, come one way or another, or we had, folks in our neighborhood. If we lived in a close knit neighborhood, that would help us out. But we really had to figure it out and deal with all the stuff on our own.
Mhm.
And I think that's what created the career that or the where we were as professionals, younger professionals, is yeah, we just got to figure it out on our own. And
Yeah.
then we realized, hey, it's better to work with a team, like
Right.
you said.
And the other thing too is that if you have an ego,
Yes.
I mean, let's bring up the ego, right? Like, if
Yes.
you have an ego and you think that you just cannot ask yourself to
Mhm.
be vulnerable enough, or to put your ego aside to be able to ask for help, it will stunt your growth in many ways than one, but it will definitely stunt your career growth,
Yes.
right?
I couldn't agree anymore. Um, I think in today's professional environment, people are wanting to see who's going to play nice in the sandbox with each other. You
Mhm.
know, um, who's not going to take credit for who made the tallest sandcastle,
Mhm.
because everybody's working on it together.
Mhm.
And that's a skill. I agree that or a characteristic or a trait, however you want to put it, that our employers are looking for. Don't worry about the credit. The credit will happen. Um,
That's right. That's exactly right. The
mhm,
credit will happen. And to your point about the sandbox, because I love the sandbox analogy actually, and I've used it for many, many years, because if everyone plays nice in the sandbox, then
mhm.
you can get a lot of things done and really have an enjoyable time. But if
Yes.
one person starts to not play nice in the sandbox, you can be assured that there
Yeah.
are people who can throw sand much harder than you could ever receive it, right?
Yes.
Which is all about trust. When you think about the analogy, it's about building trust in the community where you're working or where you're
Hmm.
playing, wherever you
Yes.
are. And I for years have told young folks who have come into our development communities, and I did this at Michigan, but but it's like it's a large community, and because it's a large community, everyone has to work really hard to be a
Yes.
member of the community and to be a trusted and reliable member of the community, that and dependable, right, member of
Yes.
the community. And that it will take one misstep on your part as a young person
Mm-hmm.
or a new person in the community, one misstep,
Yeah.
or you think you won't follow the protocol that's been established for everyone to work well together, and you
Mm-hmm.
think that you can go around that protocol because it will advance you for, faster for in a particular instance, that will damage your reputation. And everyone
Yes.
will know. Like, it's not like it's just going to be put aside and no one's going to think about it. No, everyone will identify who that person is, and it will take a long time to
Yes.
regain the trust of the community.
Yeah.
So my advice always is just follow the lead of those around you, integrate yourself into the community, volunteer, offer help, whatever it is, right?
Yes.
That you can be that helpful person to help others, which always feels good anyway, right? It always feels good.
Yes.
And then also seeking out those senior people who can help you. It's kind of, making yourself a part of the village, like we were talking about, like
Yep.
our neighbors that helped us. I mean, it's still a village, as Hillary Clinton would say, right?
It's all good. The when we're thinking about community and networks, the one thing that always resonated with me, I had somebody that I worked with many years ago, um, that would put some incredible effort into developing the relationships with her team, with her frontline team. And there was such passion, positive passion that she had about that. And it wasn't something that she needed to do, it's something that she wanted to do. Um, because at that time we were still focused on numbers and whatnot. And that was, have a conversation about numbers. Don't worry about anything else, you know. Um, and
That works.
I remember, yeah, exactly. Work, um, I remember, I remember her telling me, she's like, at the end of the day, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, these people won't remember the coaching that I gave them. They won't remember, the job that they were really doing, but they may remember my name. And at the end of the day, I want them to associate some very positive thoughts with my name,
Right.
and that will that will resonate more than anything else. Because, like you were saying, the what you've been doing over your career, yes, it's a smaller community, but it's a very larger community. You know, everybody knows somebody. Um, we were talking about that not too long ago. It's like, oh, do you remember this person? Do you remember this person? No, but I do remember, and so as everybody remembers somebody else, and you just don't know when you're going to come across somebody that's going to say, oh yeah, I know Colleen, she was a freaking rock star, you know and yeah, you definitely want to do something with her. And So I think that's so important that you bring it up. It's how you make somebody feel, not what you do for somebody.
So let me tell a quick story,
Go right
that
ahead.
because you're absolutely right that throughout, at least throughout my career, I have watched managers and or leaders in whatever capacity, and I've said, oh, I'm going to do that when I get to a position. And a lot of times I've said, I will never do that, right? Like, I will
Mhm.
never do that because of how it made me feel, to your point, like, or what it did to someone. And
Mhm.
I had an experience one time that I had a boss who came to me. I was with another colleague and we were working on something, and the boss came over and asked us if we had work to do. Now, we've all been in that position before, when usually it's
Yes.
at a fast food restaurant when you're 14 or 15 and the
Uh-huh.
manager comes over and asks you if you need something to do, right? Not as a full professional, salaried professional do you have
Uh-huh.
somebody come and ask you. And literally at that point we said, well, of course, we said we're working and this is what we're
Hmm.
working on, right? But I immediately, when the manager left, I turned to my colleague and said, I'm a grandmother. Like, she just talked to me and I'm a grandmother, right? Like, I'm
Yes.
someone's grandma, you know? And I have always thought this after that particular incident happened. I always looked at, I looked at the people who worked for me and the people who worked with me just a little bit differently.
Hmm.
That everyone, that you, me, the people who are watching this right now, you're individuals with a life outside of your professional life.
Yes.
You pay bills, you have a mortgage, you pay rent, you pay utilities, you
Yes.
raise children, you fawn over your grandchildren, you go, you sit on, you're a mayor, you're a city councilman, you are a deacon
Hmm.
in your church or whatever is important to you, right? School boards, right? That's the well-rounded person that comes to work to devote time to your company every day, not
Yes.
the person who's there to hit PF1 six. I'm making you laugh, I know, like hit those buttons or do that task over and over and over again, right?
Yes.
Or for you as a manager to say, like, what are you doing, right? What do you do?
Uh-huh.
Do I need to fill
Yes.
your time, right? And so
Hmm.
the way to manage people, frankly, is just to know who they are and what motivates them and how to help them be the best that they can be. Because if
Hmm.
they're happy at work, they're probably going to be pretty happy at home,
Yes. And vice versa.
and
Um,
vice versa.
you know, um, and I think today, it's so important as leaders that they get to know the full person
Yeah.
that's in
Yeah.
front of them at any point in time. Um, how do you impart that knowledge, or how do you share that, or is it something that can be coached, or do you think, or is it something that's just inherent with people to really get them to, as a new leader, um, to be okay with learning about the full person, um, with
Yeah,
no
I think
agenda?
Yeah, I think brand new people in brand new leadership roles, people
Mhm.
who, and by the way, I'm thinking of people right now who I'm working with
Yes.
who are in their brand new role, right? So they think this is the way I should look, this is the way I should act, this is the way I should, all the shoulds of the world of what
Yes.
a leader looks like, right?
Uh-huh.
And if you've been doing it a while, a good leader is somebody who sits back
Hmm.
when necessary. You have to have strategic direction. All the things that a
Exactly.
leader needs to do. But when it comes to managing people, they have to have clear expectations. They have to know why they're there and
Yes.
help them learn to do their job and then to think about them as the person, right? But many times it's the ego that gets in the way. So
Hmm.
they're thinking about themselves rather than thinking about the team. And
Yes.
in fundraising, we always had a saying that it's not about me, right? It's never about me. And if you
Hmm.
take me as a fundraiser out of the equation and focus on your donors or your prospects, that's what's important, because that's where you'll see the results of good work. You take
I
yourself
love
out of
it.
it, right?
I love that. I love that. It's never about me. I
Never.
love it. Um, and it was that saying, whenever you're pointing a finger at somebody, you always have at least three coming back at you.
Oh, I've
And
never heard that.
yeah, so if you're pointing, saying you did this, and you got three fingers pointing back at you, saying, okay, well, what are you doing to have an impact on the situation?
Yeah.
Um, and that.
What's triggering you, right? Like, what's
Yes.
triggering you to have to feel the need to put your finger in somebody's face? Like,
Exactly. Now,
never.
35 years ago, that may have been a little bit more acceptable, but today,
Absolutely.
definitely not.
That's
Not that it was
absolutely right.
acceptable to do back then.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so we've kind of talked about a few things, but I'm wondering because you've done some career pivots as well. Okay. And what would be your top recommendations for somebody who may feel that they're at like this inflection point in their career? Where it's like, man, what do I want to do? What I mean, even us at our ages, we're like, well, what do we want to do when we grow up? What advice or recommendations would you have for somebody that's at a point in their career um, that they're just like, I don't know what to do, especially with all these layoffs that have been occurring over the past year. People are, they're doing some soul searching. So how would you coach them?
Okay. Well, one of the first things I ask is, are you keeping yourself open to opportunity?
Hmm.
Because many times opportunity is presented to you and you don't know that it's opportunity, right?
Yes.
And to keep
Yes.
yourself and the world is changing so very quickly.
Hmm.
I mean, it really is. It's changing so quickly that you have to be conscientious of what's going on around you so that you can see opportunity when it presents itself. Now, I also have a thing for people who have been in their jobs for a while. We'll talk about people who are getting laid off, but there's also a whole contingent of younger workers who are leaving their jobs after 7, 8 months, right? And it's like, even if you've been in your job for a while, um, I think there needs to be a checklist, right? Like,
Mm,
you feel like you need to move up and you need more money and you need to move up and you need to be doing other things. My question back is, what haven't you done yet that you need to practice before you take that next role? Right?
yes.
And what
Yes.
and where have you tried something that you've actually failed and learned from your failure,
Hmm.
that then you'll make sure that you don't do that again and the people around you don't do that again, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of a bit of self-examination. Again, I'm thinking now it goes back to ego again, that
Hmm.
your employer, the other thing too, we've kind of in some respect made employers the bad guy. And
Yeah.
this is just in general, this is not in all cases. So I want someone out there who's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I work for the bad guy. And I'm like, I know, I have to. I have to. But we have to remember, if you have not taken an economics class, then right now is the time for you to go educate yourself in economics,
Yep.
because there's all kinds of supply and demand factors going on right now.
Hmm.
Right? All kinds in our economy and in our world. And
Yes.
that relates to layoffs as well. It also
Hmm.
relates to wages and workable, living wages and that sort of thing, that our companies, especially, and all kinds of firms and companies and organizations right now, post pandemic, are trying to figure out what the new normal is and
Yep.
how to actually balance a budget. You probably didn't know I'm actually an accountant too. So I have a business background in accounting. So I think about these all the time when I hear that people are pressing about my company's doing this and my company's not giving me this,
Hmm.
and or my company is cutting this, that we have to think, how is the company trying to make themselves soluble so that they can stay in business and maybe grow in the future?
Yes.
And how are they trying to balance the cost of paying people versus producing a product for a
Hmm.
price that people will buy, right?
Yep.
And keeping people employed. So there's lots of economic pressures, and I'm going to say it again, if you've not taken an economic course, now's the time for you to do it.
Yes.
Right?
They're available out there for free.
Free. That's right. I know the University of Michigan, through Corsica, you can take, all kinds of different courses. But
Yes.
absolutely educate yourself on economics. But
Yeah.
back to your question, that if you don't know what you want to do, it's one of those things that really, in reality, and I've been in this place myself, you have
Hmm.
bills to pay, you have a
Yep.
family. Even if you don't
Hmm.
have a family, you have to support yourself, and you have to have resources, financial resources,
Yes.
versus that kind of pie in the sky that I'm going to do what I'm passionate about. And, this over here, like,
Uh-huh.
and we always hear so much talk right now about, what are you passionate about? What do you want to do? Right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm a working class person, right? Like, I grew up here, and
Uh-huh.
this over here, it's like impossible, right? Like, yeah, I love to paint, but and play golf, but I can't do that every day, right? Or whatever it might be that pays the bills. So,
Yes.
so I understand the when that dichotomy, you're faced with this dichotomy that you want to do something that fulfills you, but you also have to pay the bills.
Yes.
So, right? So it it's a matter of, again, if you've done your job and networked, to start putting
Hmm.
yourself out there and be vulnerable to say, I'm looking for a new job.
Yes.
And if you liked what you did before, then go after what you were doing before, right?
Yes.
Also say, keep your eye on the future, and what is your role now going to look like 5-10 years from now,
Hmm.
and find that role, right? Like, set yourself up so in the future you may not have to encounter layoffs again, or
Yes.
or you're doing something on the forefront of your industry where you will be in demand because you've learned what's going. I mean, you've been a part of the trajectory of the future.
Yes. And you demonstrated you can play nicely with other people. The
Totally
whole
right.
cult, you want to be part of a team that is viewed as necessary,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, it's a great I loved how you wove in the importance of networking
Mhm.
um into that. And I think people think that networking is this thing that you do, or a place that you go, and there's certain rules and whatnot. But in actuality, it's just you being you in a place of in a place that you're comfortable being in, um, talking about the things that make you um, that interest you, not make you feel a certain way, but things that interest you. And that could be a one-on-one conversation with somebody. Um, you know, Connect with somebody on LinkedIn, or connect with somebody in a local, a trade association or a networking association. Um, be involved in your community in some way, shape, or form, because you just like you were talking about, you just never know where that next opportunity is going to come from.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's even your neighbors, your friends and
Yes.
neighbors, right? Like,
Yeah.
people just walking your dog in your neighborhood. You may not know the people, but you know the dogs, right?
Yes.
Like,
Exactly.
but the routine of seeing these people over and over and over again, right? You
Yeah.
still have developed some sort of familiarity, right? So it's like, oh, they live in my neighborhood. So, right? But again, you have to be able to take a bit of time,
Mhm.
take a bit of time and invest in yourself by networking. And I really, really like what you said about, when someone, many times when someone says networking, one of the first things I think of is, the hotel conference room, right? Like on Thursday nights at 5:15, right? We're going to have a
Yeah.
networking. And so, and it's like, no, that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is, you have dinner every Tuesday night or every 3 weeks at your favorite restaurant, so that people
Yes.
know you as a regular. And you ask questions like, what do you do tell me what you do,
Uh-huh.
right? Just tell
Yep.
me what you do. And they will tell you, and you'd be amazed at the responses that you'll get from people that you see every week at your favorite steakhouse, that
Yes.
you just have seen them, you don't know them, and then you find out that they run a or produce distribution, or they're the head,
Yes.
which is actually true, someone told me. Another one is the, state attorney for the victims fund, right? Like how different are those two things? But I met two people who do those things.
That is awesome.
Right.
And be okay not to have your ego out there, where in the conversations we've had during this conversation and prior, about ego, it's, being able to shut this and open these,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I,
And
I
not be
love it.
embarrassed. And not be embarrassed. Because the other thing is that everyone, I don't know one person, me included, who
Yep.
hasn't lost a job, who hasn't had to put food on the table because you have 3 kids at home,
Yep.
who have, or and a mortgage payment. All of us know someone, all of us know someone who
Yes.
has been put in a position, that they need a job, and they need a job now. And your first response is, how can I help? So turn that sentiment around. Don't let yourself get depressed
Yes.
and, mired down in the situation, but just, throw yourself into just talking with people. And it's okay to ask for help. It's absolutely okay to ask for help.
Yeah. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes, you
You
have
know.
to be these days.
Yes, exactly. Well, Colleen, we got to the point of our conversation, and this is, you and I could really just talk for hours upon hours, um, over a beer at like Johnny's or the Yacht Club, or, just saying, um, but
Tell me when
we
and where, and I'll be there.
there you go, there you go. So we're in the speed round. So
Okay.
are you ready for these questions?
Okay. Come at
All
me.
right.
Okay.
So, what fact about Colleen would people be surprised to learn about you?
Um, hmm. I have I've spent time with the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, and rode in a police car during the power shift in East Kansas City, Missouri, and rode in a police helicopter during a shift.
Okay, helicopter's kind of cool. Not the rest of it's not cool, but a helicopter, that's kind of cool.
Lots of cool stuff there. We'll talk about it over
Okay.
there one day.
Excellent, excellent. Um, so all of us have stress. In it, each day, every day can be a little bit more stressful than others. What's your go-to tactic for unwinding after a stressful day?
Hmm. Well, I like a good cocktail. So
Yes.
I would say there's two different kinds of stress that I have that I have in my
Uh,
life. One is one where I need to release it, right?
yeah.
Like just need to release the stress. I just need to get away, release the stress. And that's
Mhm.
probably having cocktails and dinner with my husband and friends at my favorite steakhouse. And then there's the stress where I have to process, right? I have to spend time alone, and I have to process. And when that happens, I actually walk on our trail near my house, which is in the woods.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And as we talked about, knowing your husband, he probably does a real good job of de-stressing, helping
Yeah,
you de-stress a lot.
he
So
does. He
yes,
does.
awesome. So if someone wants to pick your brain, um, learn a little bit more about the work that you do. Um, just have a continuing conversation with you
Sure.
over any of the things that we've talked about. I mean, you do a lot in university settings. You've done a lot with fundraising. You do a lot with leadership development, and strategic thinking. What are some ways that people can reach out and connect with you?
Oh, great. Thanks for asking. So, the name of my company is Leaders in Development. So, Leaders in Development. And you can reach me through my website at leadersindevelopment.com. You can also email me at Colleen, and that's Colleen at leadersindevelopment.com.
Awesome, awesome. Colleen, thank you very much for being an amazing guest. It is so great to finally get this episode done with you, and I know we're going to have a lot more conversations, going forward. I really appreciate your time. Very generous with your time today. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Mark. It's been so much fun.
Excellent. And if you like this episode, hit the like button. If you don't like this episode, hit the like button anyway. We and if you have questions for Colleen, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to do an introduction with Colleen. And she is I've known her for 35 years, 35 years, not dating ourselves, not aging ourselves or anything like that. We both started working when we were like two. Um,
Right.
exactly. But if anybody wants an introduction, I'd be more than happy to go ahead and do that. Colleen is an awesome leader. I've seen that from the times that she first started, and you do well to connect and pick her brain. So
Aw, thank you, Mark.
thank you all very much, and y'all have a great rest of the day.